Hello, and welcome to the Science of Getting Rich for Women podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Marie, a radical money coach, helping you to become rich from the inside out and feel free, whether you're in debt or not. I'm joined with my co host, Amy Bell.
Hello. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be your co-host, Jessica. My name is Amy Bell, and I'm the founder and creative director of White Lightning Communications, a little brand house up here in Ontario, looking at creating custom magazines for entrepreneurs. Woo!
Oh, yes. Oh my God, those custom magazines are so hot. I hope to be able to share them and talk about them, have a conversation about them one day, Amy, because they are just like exploding right now. But I want to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever felt like, you wanted to do something, but then you felt like, oh, the market is saturated. There's too many people in that industry. Like there's too much competition. Have you ever felt like that?
Yeah, well, there is a bazillion graphic artists out in this planet. So yeah, I do feel that way.
Yeah, I've felt that way too. Like especially when I wanted to, share all of my knowledge and wisdom as a money coach, and lead and support women along this journey to financial empowerment. People have even told me, family members who mean well but aren't very supportive at times. Oh, there's so many coaches out there. But the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of different people in every industry, and there's always going to be different flavors, different energies. And so the conversation today is going to be really helpful if you've ever felt like you're in a market that's saturated, where there's so much competition, because chapter 3 is all about, is opportunity monopolized? Amy, I know you've read this book several times. I'm now reading it several times. What were your initial thoughts on chapter 3?
Um, Well, what I realized is that it's important to stand out, number one, because I think it talks about being a master in your field. And when you're a master in your field, you have to then up level your brand to really stand out. Because, like you were saying, there's a million real estate agents, there's a million graphic artists, there's a million massage therapists. And so, what are you doing to stand out in your field? And even though there is a lot of different people in the same industry as you, if you do things in a certain way, someone will get rich and somebody won't get rich. And so that's the only difference. Standing out is doing things in a certain way that will get you noticed more so than somebody else that's doing the same thing in your field.
Exactly. And this certain way has not exactly been revealed to us yet, but the book is alluding to this certain way. And this particular chapter is all about the fact that opportunity is not monopolized, that if you will go about doing things in a certain way, you will become rich with mathematical certainty, might I add. The chapter opens up saying that no woman is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from her, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels that are open to you. He's referring back when he wrote this book in 1914, 1910.
Mm-hmm.
He's referring to the steel trust and the railroad companies. Now, yes, those industries were monopolized back then, but there were so many more opportunities if you are willing to go with the tide, if you are willing to go with the growing industries. I mean, today in our world, in North America and our world at large, there are industries in their infancy, like artificial intelligence and personal services. The coaching industry is one of the most fastest growing industries in the world. Like, so many people are wanting to share their unique um, wisdom, knowledge, skills, abilities to support other people. So if you are willing to go with the tide instead of against the tide, there will always be opportunities for your advancement. And if you're willing to do things in a certain way, you cannot lose.
Puppies are joining
Sorry
us.
about that. So this goes against completely what we have been told. Like, I every time I read this book, Amy, I feel like I've been told a lie. Like, my whole life I've been told, about this, competition, right? That there's, like, we're all competing, we have to win, we have to step, over people, we have to climb this ladder if we want to be successful. And the more I read this book, the more I'm thinking I've been sold a lie. Like, it's not true, this whole thing that we have to compete with one another, and that there's areas that are saturated and there's no room for us. Do you feel that way?
I really do feel that way. That competition, like, check out your competition, get to know what your competition's doing. Even on Facebook, you can go in and highlight certain Facebook pages so you can check out what your competition is doing. But recently, in doing these custom magazines, I went and looked for my competition, and then I called them and I said, I don't want to be in competition. I want to be in creative communion with you so that we can create a more interesting product using our imagination, right? So if you're thinking about the many different people that are in an industry, if you go outside that industry, maybe if a real estate agent connects with a home stager, right, or an interior designer, now you've got complementary services, and you're using that creative energy, how we can both do well together, rather than, oh, well, I can't bring her in because she's going to be my competition, or just not thinking in a creative way. And I think the certain way is a creative way. How can you take two different industries and merge them together to come up with something brand new that actually creates a new industry? And that's what, the steel trust and the railroads and all that were back in the day. Now we've got, like you said, AI. So how can we bring AI into our business to amplify and up level our brands so that we can actually connect with other people and bring them into our vortex, and then create these really cool collaborations rather than seeing each other as competition. And the same with you, like bringing in, you're the radical money coach, but there's other coaches that would serve to complement your services, as in mine, bringing in other designers. I don't see other designers as competition to me, because we all have our own style and we all have our own way of doing things. But bringing us together, like, then the energy and the creativity starts to flow, and you're like, woo, look at this. Like, I could never have thought of that without you.
Yeah, like, the whole idea and concept of competition, I've realized, is just an illusion. There really is no competition. There is no competition. You can have 10 people in the exact same business, and there is no competition, because every single person is unique and has their own energy and will connect with those who are perfectly aligned for what they offer, for their energy. So there is no competition, and the more we can realize this, the better off we are, the better we'll feel, and the more we can step into our own power as the creative creators in our life, you know?
Yeah.
I really love this chapter. This chapter is so short. I listened to it on Audible. I've got the original, and I'm actually in April. I'm going to be recording my own version of this because I feel like even though the original has a woman's voice, it's still speaking with the male language. So I am going to be recording in April my version of the Audible. But so I listened to it. It's like 7 minutes long. It's short. It's one, two, three, four and a half pages long in the book, but it packs such a punch. Like the ideas in this book, if you can really grasp them, understand them, embody them, it will begin to change your life. It will change your reality. It'll change the way you perceive things, and therefore it will change the way you experience things. I've got so many things highlighted in this little chapter. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, well, I really like, there's one paragraph here. There's no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. There's like still tons left over. There's like a limitless supply left over. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, with this formless stuff, with the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made, and even then we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. So tapping into that universal raw material, this limitless supply, is what's going to feed your imagination to come up with creative ways to collaborate with other people. And when you just sit quietly and you're like, how can I be different? How am I going to make an impact? What can I do to collaborate rather than be competitive? And what can I do today to serve my audience? And you just sit there quietly, then it shows up. You tap into that energy. And when you tapped into it, you go into this amazing, beautiful state of flow. Like if you've ever worked and you're doing something and you're so into it and you forget to pee and you forget to eat and you forget to do all those things, like that's when you know you're tuned in and you're tapped in and you're turned on to this source of formless stuff.
You just mentioned this formless stuff, and I don't think we've really talked about it. People who are just being introduced to this book, or maybe people who are just listening to this podcast for the first time, are going, "What is this formless stuff you're talking about?" This was all new to me not that long ago, and now it's like, I play with it every day. So I almost feel like we need to define it. We need to share like what it is a little bit, Amy.
Well, in chapter 4, when we get there next week, there is a little verse that said that they say at the end of the chapter, right? But essentially, this formless stuff is what created universes. It was born out of this magical material, this formless energy. And that is what created everything. That's the sort of premise of what they're talking about here. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant, because that's what this book is about. That everything is created out of this one energy, including us, including planets, including the sun, including the earth, everything. And so if you can tap into that energy that created the sun, then you can tap into something that will create riches for yourself. And I spent a long time in this book reading and memorizing it, because he says memorize it and put it to memory. And I spent a lot of time just focusing on memorizing it rather than using it, this formless substance. And the moment I stopped, just memorizing it and saying it over and over in my mind, like I'm memorizing the words of a play, and I actually got into the character, as quote unquote, got into the character and started impressing images and my visualizations and my energy on that formless substance, then emails started to come and people started to call and things started to happen. So the feeling part of it is super important, because if you're not feeling the energy, then you're just repeating words, and that doesn't work. So getting into the energy of tapping into that creative formless substance is, I think, the key.
Yeah, absolutely. This formless stuff, that permeates and penetrates the interspaces of the universe, it is an intelligent substance. Like you said, it created the universe, and it's a substance that is always seeking more life, and it's intelligent. Like, when I started learning about this, I mean, my mind was constantly being blown. Like, I never thought of air that way. I never thought of this substance. Never even knew it existed. And now that I know about it, it's so much fun to play with it, because that is how powerful we are. That is how powerful our minds are. We can literally imagine things in our mind and impress that thought upon this intelligent, formless substance and cause the thing we think about to be created. Like, it might not happen overnight, but it might.
It might, it
It
happens.
might. It has.
Like if
Right?
I go to bed at night and I'm visualizing and I'm saying, okay, let's see what happens tomorrow. And then I wake up and there's, an email from someone who wants to work with me. And then you go, oh my God, like this really does work. And it's not just the air, it's the interspaces between the air molecules where this intelligence exists. It's like in between the cells of our bodies, in between the cells of this table I'm sitting at. Like, it lives and breathes and bees in that energy field. So like, that's a lot of stuff going on inside the air and around the air.
Yeah. I love how in this chapter he writes about how no woman is kept poor because nature is poor, because there's not enough to go around. Like, God would literally be contradicting himself if that was the case. Like, there is a storehouse of inexhaustible riches that we live upon. And it's only our mind, the conditioning, the subconscious conditioning of our mind, that is telling us that there's not enough to go around, that we need to fight and compete to become rich. And that is like all BS. And that is literally keeping us from our expansion, from our growth, and from becoming rich. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. Constantly. Like, when you become aware of that truth, and that's what it is, like, it is a truth. When you become aware of that truth, you tap in to this infinite intelligence that is always seeking fuller expression, that is always seeking more life. And you align with a power within you that can create things. And their competition becomes eliminated. It becomes obsolete. It just dissolves.
Well, when
Like,
you think about it, Jessica, like the bush that is growing out beside my front door is not in competition with the grass that's growing next to it. And it's not in competition with the fox that comes and, lays in the grass. There is no competition in nature. It just grows. And it may happen to grow over top of something else, like the tree is growing over top of the grass, but that's not competition. That's now they're feeding off one another's energy. And they are reaching for the sunlight. So if you can, even when you think about interbreeding different species of plants, like you're putting a rose with another type of rose, they've now melded together and created something new, and they're both reaching for the sun. There's no competition in that. It just is. And so there's no point in seeing the competition, because we are just as we are. And so it's only this sort of ego thing that gets into the way, that stops us from being in this collaborative space. And another thing that was mentioned in this chapter is that when you do things out of competition, it won't last.
Oh,
It's
yep.
like, I'm gonna be in competition with this other designer. One of us is gonna be out the door, or both of us will be out the door, because that energy is so ugly. And I think a lot of times ad agencies, and you're fighting for airtime, and you're fighting to be seen, and when you're scrolling through Facebook, it's like you've got 2.1 seconds, if it's not even cut in half anymore. Like, you're in competition with every other post that comes up. But no, you put your energy into the post that you want to post, and those that need it and need to find it will find it, and they will stop and pause. But that's not a competition. I don't create posts out of competition to someone else. I create them and put the energy into it, and then those that need to see it, those that are attracted to me, to you, to anyone, are going to find us. It's beautiful. Be
Yeah.
a tree. Be a tree, people.
I love what you just said about nature, Amy, because we as humans at the top of the apex here, having this mind, we're so powerful, but yet we can learn so much from nature. So much from nature. About this whole idea of being in harmony with the universe, and there is no competition. We're all just seeking fuller expression of who we are, which is the divine, which is part of the all that is. This is such a beautiful analogy you made with nature. Be a flower, be a tree. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I love that. I love that.
Well, the flower and the tree are great, but you still need to do things in a way that actually brings in the moolah, because
Well,
we are in
absolutely.
a body, so we need the cash. But if you are setting out to serve and to give and to be, then those that you need to collaborate with will float into your space, and you just need to have your eyes open and be ready to receive that creative energy that comes to you, and be ready to receive the energy of this formless substance. We're walking around not even knowing it exists, or not even opening our eyes to the fact that, wow, in between the molecules of that thing, there's something that I can use to amp up my own growth level here on this planet. What?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're having this conversation, because gosh, the more people who knew this, the whole vibration of our planet is going to be raised. It's changing my life. It's changed your life. I know it's had an impact on so many other people's life. It's the reason why this book is still relevant today, 114 years later. So this whole paradigm of competition, of opportunities being monopolized, is an illusion. It is false. It is not true. And it is actually preventing you from your fullest expression, your greatest expansion. And so as you begin to become aware of this truth now, you're going to start noticing it in your life. Like, now that this has been brought to your awareness, it's like, you buy a red car and then you start noticing all the red cars of the same type, right? Now that it's in your awareness, you're going to start noticing it. And the best thing that you can start doing when you notice it is to interrupt it and replace it. Replace it with a new code, a new belief, a new story about what's really true, so that it can serve you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if we look at, I was just looking at your summary, and jealousy is a thing that comes along with competition.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think that kind of needs to be looked at, because or even feeling defeated, or feeling like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, Jessica and I are both money coaches, let's say, and Jessica is doing really well and I'm over here not doing so great. Or I'm a designer and someone else is doing really well as a designer. And I feel like I'm doing all these things right, but what the heck is wrong? So when they're talking about doing things in a certain way, when I mentioned before that you're just sort of asking the question, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing why am I not as successful as this other person? And then you get into a negative headspace, and then that just sort of pushes you down even further. So it's important to really do your best to stay at, like, everything is on a high vibe around us. Everything is like the nature is on a high vibration. We just need to raise it up a little bit so that we can tap into that energy field and not be put down by the fact that someone else is doing better. And getting into visualization, getting into auto-suggestion, which is like repeating until it gets embedded into your subconscious. Like, these are things that you can do. The more you repeat it, the more you begin to believe it. It's like if you've known someone who's told a lie and that lie has become their reality, they believe that lie. So if you can believe a lie over a period of time, then you can also believe a good lie, a good truth, and then embed that into your subconscious until it becomes your reality. But I think it's just important to realize that you can't look at others as competition or be jealous of what's going on in their vortex, because that's their reality. It's not your reality. You can bring into your reality whatever it is you want to believe. If I believe that I'm going to be successful and I keep repeating that and I'm setting goals and I'm doing it all, then eventually it must be true. It must be true with that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So here is your permission. Here's your invitation. What is it that you desire to do, desire to be, desire to contribute, but feel that, perhaps, there's no opportunity there. The industry is saturated. This is your permission slip to allow yourself to go there, because there is no competition. The opportunities are not monopolized anywhere. You are unique. Your energy is unique. Your skills and abilities are unique. And when you use those to contribute consciously to the collective, there will be those that are in resonance with your energy and that are looking for exactly what it is you have to offer. Amy, is there a particular quote that you would like to share? I've got a bunch of highlights here, but I think ending with like a quote from the book is kind of cool.
Well, I like the second last paragraph to this chapter. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict herself and nullify her own works. So if that's the truth for nature, it's the truth for you. So you are here to constantly advance yourself, to constantly keep the motive for increase of life, essentially. And so everything you do must be for that reason. If it's not, you're dying.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Another great conversation. And we'll be back to next week with another great conversation. Actually, next week is one of my favorite chapters. I think you would agree.
Yeah, chapter 4. Chapter 4 is a really good one. Yes.
Yeah. So good. So come back next week for chapter 4, the first principle in the science of getting rich. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye.